Welcome to Adventures in Beer Selling. Cheers. Out of respect for the content today, I'll be sipping a little bourbon. This is Walking Stick. Excellent, 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 excellent stuff. So, I am a big fan of TV, and I have my set group of shows that I like. And the most recent set of series that I finished is a popular one called Yellowstone. So I finished every episode of Yellowstone. I've also finished 1883 and 1923. So prepare yourself for spoilers if you don't want them. Be a good time to click off and check out some other videos about beer or about, anything else, Game of Thrones, all kinds of good stuff. But if you don't care about spoilers or if you've already seen it, listen to this. Do you guys remember this scene from 1883?
What's the valley called?
I don't know the word in your language, but it's when you die, you go there.
Paradise.
Yes, paradise. But you know this, that in 7 generations, my people will rise up and take it back from you.
In 7 generations, you can have it.
This scene probably stuck out to a lot of people because the recurring theme in the show Yellowstone is how important the land is and trying to keep people from taking it. And that people would consistently want to take the land. One thing I'll point out, and Taylor Sheridan is a Texan through and through. He owns part of a ranch. This is a common theme amongst anybody that owns land. My family has some land that goes back a few generations on my mom's side. And obviously not the drama of Yellowstone. However, Taylor Sheridan, give me a call. Got a show for you. But there is a consistent theme of people trying to take the land. Especially for African Americans. As we've seen, there's always people that are trying to find ways to rip the land from the family. In other cases, in my family's case, the land proves to be valuable to other entities, and especially in the time frame of my grandpa and his generation, and in my mom's generation. There were ways that people would go around the law to basically screw black folks out of their land, and with the threat of death, with the threat of harassment, and the Ku Klux Klan and such, there has been a lot of people that have been disinherited from the land. I know I'm getting off on this rant, but it's Black History Month, so shut up and listen to it. One story that I remember from my college days was about the Houston family. They were, their ancestors had been slaves to Sam Houston. Sam Houston was the president of Texas as a country and the governor of Texas, a very famous and historic figure in the state of Texas. That family was run, they were freed. The original patriarch of that family, he made his own way. He became a blacksmith, made money. He was able to elevate that family after slavery to be self-sufficient and create some generational wealth. And the citizens of the surrounding community ran that family out of Huntsville. I've got bits and pieces of the story, but that's basically because he owned so many different things in the community that the powers that be, we're talking about the Jim Crow South, they couldn't stand it. They ran him out. So that was one reason why Yellowstone really resonated with me, was their consistent battle with all these different forces on trying to take away their land and their livelihood, while also trying to, whatever the new scheme is, build a casino, build a hotel, a resort, split the land up, whatever they wanted to do. There's always these different forces. So it really resonated with me because this is a recurring theme for anybody that owns property, anybody that owns anything. It's always somebody that's there to take it. And with 1883 and 1923, this theme is recurring. However, in 1883, what makes it different is that the land has been kind of taken from the Native American inhabitants. And I really love this line. And that actor is a very famous actor. Gary Green, who is a First Nations Oneida actor. But that's such a pivotal scene when that actor, Gary Green, who, side note, was Kevin Costner's co-star in Dances with Wolves, another really, really awesome movie. And he played a Sioux Indian chief. But Gary Green tells, Kevin Costner's character, Gary Green tells James Dutton, the original Dutton, that there is some really awesome property for him to go and obtain for him and his family, and where his daughter could be buried. However, in 7 generations, my people will take it back. That's prophetic and also very interesting when you say to yourself, what are the 7 generations? And is this prophecy or is this shit talking? Right? So let's take a look, because of course, when he said that, this immediate thing popped in my head, and I went to Men's Health and I said, let me look at the Dutton family tree, because I have a strange and funny feeling where that 7 generations exists, right? So let's count them. You've got James Dutton at the top of that family tree. You've got James Dutton, and then the little boy to grow up to be a man, John Dutton. And if you remember from flashbacks, it was John and Spencer were the 2 sons. John was also the little boy in 1883. That's generation 2. Generation 3 is Jack Dutton. Jack Dutton fell in love with Elizabeth, got shot. That's 1923. Then, if you remember from the flashbacks of Yellowstone, John Dutton II was Jack Dutton and Elizabeth's son. That's the 4th generation. The 5th generation is Kevin Costner's character, John Dutton III. Number 6 would be Casey, Lee, Beth. They're the 6th generation. Technically, if you want to count Jamie, even though, spoiler alert, Jamie's not actually a Dutton. And the 7th generation is Tate Dutton. Right here. Wow. Tate Dutton is the 7th generation. And there's a couple of incredible things here. Gary Green's character told him that my people will take that land back. So that land originally belonged to his people. Casey Dutton had a child with Monica. That child is Tate. That's his wife. The show doesn't really allude to it in the beginning, to my understanding. I also don't know. I know a little bit about Native Americans, but I don't know enough to understand, whenever they say at the beginning, Chairman Rainwater and what the tribal council, maybe like that would like spark something in certain people. For me, it didn't. I don't know. But I'm pretty certain that they are Crow. Monica is a member of the Crow Nation, which would mean Tate Crow Nation, which means, and some people are like, oh, that means that Tate's going to have to fight and he's going to end up losing the land to the Native American, the Crow, and we'll go back to those people like Gary Green prophesied. However, I would say, do you remember what James Dutton said?
7 generations, you can have it.
This thing's going to come full circle. This is prophecy. I think Tate Dutton inheriting the land fulfills a prophecy because he is a member of the Crow Nation. And I think there's a possibility because think about it. Think about what the Duttons have had to go through to keep the land. Now, we haven't seen all of 1923. There's another season. Yellowstone isn't complete. And obviously between 1883 and 2024 or whenever, there's been all kinds of different conflicts to get this land. Think about all the things that they've had to go through to keep this land. Think about all the things Tate has had to go through because of the land. Tate got kidnapped, got his head shaved by these crazy militia, neo-Nazi people. Tate had to kill a guy who was they were invading the Yellowstone Ranch and they were they're trying to kill people, and he had to kill somebody himself. This kid is mentally just PTSD out the yin yang. He's gone through it. He has really experienced everything that the other Duttons have experienced in keeping the land. Look at Casey. Casey, all the things he's gone through with being in the military, but also fighting for the land. John Dutton obviously is like totally desensitized. The people that they've taken to the train station, there's just so much that's gone on. I think Tate, recognizing that his heritage is tied to the original inhabitants of the land, I think when he becomes an adult, he would then turn over the land. Casey Dutton and Chief Rainwater have started to develop a little bit of a relationship. Obviously, Rainwater and John Dutton are kind of enemies, but they're kind of like frenemies. They're trying to push Rainwater out. But it seems to me that he's developed a level of respect from Casey. Monica is working with the nation to, enhance, to protect Native women and things that happen to them. I think Tate Dutton is going to grow up and say, I, as a member of the Crow Nation, own how many thousand acres is the Yellowstone Ranch? It's time for this to be returned. Think about it. There are bodies, or at least one that we've seen, of members of that tribe buried on Yellowstone Ranch. The Duttons have had a pretty amicable relationship, at least what we've seen in the show, with the Crow. Remember in 1923, they gave them a bunch of sheep. One of the Crow chiefs wanted his dad to be buried there. James Dutton didn't stop him from doing it. He also didn't stop him from burying him where he wanted to, where James would not know. I think they're comfortable as a family. At least by the time Tate is in charge, will be comfortable with relinquishing that land. And not just because it's the right thing to do, not just because Tate Dutton is a member of the Crow Nation himself. I'll tell you why. It's because it's probably going to be the only thing they can do to keep the land away from all these other assholes. It's going to be the smartest thing to do. To add it, make it some type of, I don't know how any of that stuff works. Because most of the stuff that's designed for Native Americans in our country is designed through treaties. Because basically, Native Americans have been so screwed out of their land. Treaties have been broken. Land has been subdivided to private benefactors. over Native American sovereignty. So all these things have happened. So I don't know exactly how he would do it, but I think there is going to be a way. I think that would be the end of Yellowstone. That would be how Yellowstone ends, to bring full circle that prophecy. And it's also a very interesting take on the show, because it makes me think of kind of the history of Native American land ownership versus private ownership. It's super interesting to me how they have a movie coming out called Killers of the Flower Moon. I might be saying it wrong. In that movie, it's about the Osage, and I apologize if I say anybody's name wrong, but it's about the Osage and how they discover oil on their land, and European Americans, white Americans, decide to try to intermarry as a way to obtain that property, as a way to obtain that land. I think there are several smarter people than me that have given different examples of how this has happened, but intermarriage with Native Americans in order to obtain property is definitely something that historically happened. It was just basically a strategy to screw folks out of their property. The Osage went through it. The Choctaw, during the Indian Removal Act, there was many different ways of how intermarriage and how dealings with quote unquote Americans disinherited Native Americans out of their property. And what is so magical about this prophecy in Yellowstone is that through sheer coincidence, love, I don't know how they got together. It seems that that's happening in reverse for the Dutton family. Casey's desire to be with Monica could possibly disinherit the family legacy from the Duttons and then return it to the original owners. And I think that's pretty cool, man. I like the Duttons, I like the show, but I also like seeing folks get their shit back. So, and at the end, this prophecy and the idea of Tate playing a role in the prophecy, it raises a lot of questions about reconciliation, about unity, the potential for healing long-standing wounds. It parallels the type of disinheriting that happened between Europeans and Native Americans in reverse. It is exciting to kind of dive into the complexities of what is essentially a land dispute. It really opens up a door to exploring themes of forgiveness, understanding, again, reconciliation, but also a pathway to restoration of property that is really antithetical to how that property was taken in the first place. So it'll be interesting. It's just my theory. I think Tate, obviously, the fact is he is the 7th generation, and I think it'll be a really cool way to close out that series. Here's the other thing. If Tate Dutton marries somebody from the reservation who is full Crow, then that next generation will be less Dutton and more of the original inhabitants. So I'm super excited. I love the show. I'm excited for a new season. I hope there's some way that they can work Kevin Costner back in there. I guess it's like kind of an impossible thing. And I really enjoyed 1883, with a really, really awesome series of pioneers. I love seeing how things got the way that they got. That's always a big thing for me. And then 1923 also, great series. I'm excited to see another season of that. The representation. Oh shit! Here's another thing. The woman, the Crow woman in 1923, her father last name was Rainwater. So, and that's the name of the chief in Yellowstone. So I'm super interested to see how that comes together. Like, he's related to the original, badass from 1923. So I'm like that. Like, I'm like, okay, how did he come? And then his mom, or I guess that would be like his great grandmother. What a badass she was, knocking off nuns. And oh man, no disrespect to nuns, but those nuns, they got what they needed. And so a couple of those little priest guys, they got a little bit of medicine too. Super excited to see how that connection comes about. And how amazing is it that, again, what the Lady Rainwater, what they went through in that school, and the heartache and the issues that they had to deal with, and then only to have to basically leave and hide out in Comanche country for somehow generations later to be reinvested into the land that their ancestors lost. It brings it full circle. And I'm going to finish with this. I watched a new special, and it was about, I can't remember which one it was. I don't think it was Finding Your Roots, but it was one of those where they took a guy whose great ancestor was a slave. And his last name, let's say his last name was like Johnson, right? And then he went to the plantation where his ancestor, X amount of generations removed, was enslaved. And the person that owned that plantation, white guy, last name Johnson. And the two men, they had a long conversation. They talked about reparations and how they felt about it. They talked about, he got a lot of the history of the plantation, and he took him, the white Johnson took the black Johnson into the slave quarters, and that still existed. So the building still exists, the slave quarters and everything still exists. I'm sure people tour there and probably have weddings and shit, but he goes there and he walks into the slave quarters, and he looks around, and the black Johnson, he starts to get kind of emotional. It's like, man, this is crazy. And the white Johnson's like, I'm sorry. And he goes, no, that's not why. He's getting emotional because he said somebody was in this room, right? Going through whatever they were going through, and they were praying for a better day. They were praying for, like, to get out of bondage, to live a better life. And the black Johnson was I think he was like a lawyer or something. Like, he had money, he was doing good. And he goes, that person at the time, didn't know that I was that better day. So that they were praying for a day they would never see. But it's here. Like, I'm walking back in here fulfilling their prayers. And I guess that's why I'm so enchanted by the Yellowstone 1883 Circle of a Prophecy, because the fulfillment of what that Gary Green's character said. I hope that man's name's Gary Green. I could keep calling him Gary Green. That man, they probably ain't even know Gary Green. Hold on a second. Graham Greene. My bad. And his character was Spotted Eagle. That prophecy that Spotted Eagle was saying, it wouldn't be fulfilled until that seventh generation. And when he said it may not have been fulfilled in the way that he was thinking. I don't know what he was thinking, but like, if he was thinking that it was going to be taken away, or if it was going to be voted away, or the United States system was going to say, no, we're going to give this land back to the Crow. It wasn't fulfilled the way he said. It was fulfilled in Tate Dutton. The same way James Dutton said, in 7 generations, you can have it back. Yeah, you can have it back, but now we're a part of it. the land is central to the story of Yellowstone, and the Duttons have now become a part of that land, and the Crow were already a part of that land, as Rainwater's character was telling that nun when she was giving her the business. She said, "This is the land that's getting you. This is the land that's killing you." Well, the Crow were part of that land. The Duttons became a part of that land through all of the hardships, heartaches, and pains that they went through to keep it. And now they're official, with Tate Dutton being double a part of that land because he's experienced the heartaches, he's experienced the pain. He has the legacy and the history of the Dutton family of pain keeping that land, and he has the legacy of the Crow, who were the original inhabitants of that land. And he brings it back full circle. So the shit's magical to me, but I'm also drinking bourbon, so I'm just be talking about some all kind of crazy stuff. Ain't no telling what's going on in my head these days. But keep watching Adventures in Beer Selling. Took a holiday break. We back. Keep listening. Keep enjoying. Keep drinking. Cheers.